Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Young and Wifed Up, episode premiere for season 6. Oh my goodness.
We've been doing this for a long time.
It's been, 3 years now, I think.
3 years.
Because we do about 2
6
seasons in a calendar year.
Yes.
Wow. Crazy.
Well, who
How
are
you
you?
doing? Oh, what?
Who are you?
Did I not introduce myself?
This is starting off really bad.
Okay, wait. I'm trying to think back. Hello. Welcome back to Young and Wifed Up. Wow, you're right. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us, like I already said, for season 6 premiere episode. Oh man.
No.
We're just gonna move on to the next bit.
Okay, so if you guys have not already heard of our Patreon, we do have a Patreon where there's a ton of exclusive content, including several bonus episodes, exclusive merch, monthly video chats, recommendation links, printables, digital printables, planners, all kinds of stuff. And we also have an exclusive community where we chat, share prayer requests, and I give first-hand announcements to all of our patrons. And our patrons were also the first ones that got to have input in season 6 in the topics that we talk about. So thank you to all of our patrons. We couldn't do this without you. You guys are awesome. And they were supporting us through our off season while Marcella was on maternity leave. And they've also been able to get the inside scoop over our lives the past couple months that Marcella has been on maternity leave, because even though we've been inactive on our podcast for our main platforms, we've been very active on our Patreon. We share a lot about our lives and updates and stuff that's going on. And recently, I did a bonus episode about my first year of being a stay-at-home wife. And Marcella did an episode about managing exhaustion. So you can get those episodes and so much more that only our Patreon subscribers can hear and listen to and enjoy. And the lowest rate I believe we have is $3.99. And you can get that for a month. And then you can binge everything. You can cancel your membership, or you can continue to support us and get all of the new content, especially with season 6 rolling in. We have lots of exciting stuff for you guys.
I will add that Gabby has like top tier digital download stuff on the Patreon. Like all of the stuff that she creates, I end up using like most of it.
Awesome.
And
I
like
love
obviously like we don't have to pay for a Patreon, but I'm like, hey, I'm like benefiting here from my sister's work. Cool.
Thank you, Marcella.
If you don't want to join the Patreon, there is still a way to be in a more exclusive community, which is by joining our Facebook group. We are also pretty active on the Facebook group as well. It's a good way to also meet other like-minded young women online. And we have asked for your guys' input on episode ideas on the Facebook group as well. We do prayer requests, homemaking tips. Like it's really fun to chat and like see the comments and all this stuff. And it's really awesome like seeing how that community has been growing. So if you don't want to do the Patreon, the Facebook group is still an option. Obviously, that's free. You just have to answer like a couple of questions to get in. So we know we're not like getting weirdos.
Which we've had.
Yes.
We've had like weirdo men like try to join our Facebook group.
Like, did you really think that we would? What? Like
the best part is like one of the questions is like, are you a married woman or a woman 18 and over? And they say yes. And I'm like, well, in this day and age, I guess.
Anything you want.
Who am I to say?
Oh man.
Anyway, we could talk about that forever. That's hilarious. But Marcella, let's hear about what's been going on in your life before we get into our topic today. What has been going on with you?
Yeah, obviously the biggest thing is that I had another baby. We have boy number 3. His name is Liam. That that's another thing. You probably get sooner life updates on the Facebook group, and especially like Patreon subscribers, especially our queens, because we have private like
Mhm.
video chats with all of the girls that are in the queen tier, and they get the most raw, real updates.
They see Liam.
Yeah, they see the baby, which I like don't post pictures of my kids online anymore, but yeah, they will see Liam. And obviously like everybody's vetted and they're like, you know,
They're like, "Oh, all I need is $15 a month to see your child? Sign me up."
it is so creepy. Anyway, um but yeah, that is a really good way to like if you want updates like ASAP or you're really invested for some reason. We're super boring people. Like we're just ordinary people. Like there just really isn't that much to talk about. But we like fill up that hour quite a bit when
Somehow.
we do our once a month video chats. It's really fun. But yeah, Facebook group also gets I don't post pictures on that one either, but they did get the update that, you know, I had the baby, and for some reason the podcast listeners who are just listeners end up hearing the last about everything. So yeah,
Sorry.
he was born September 2nd. I was a week and a half late with him, which was great. I'm like now accepting that
3 for
all of my
3.
babies are late. Um, so yeah, like labor and delivery went pretty much as well as I could have expected. He did have like some breathing issues like as soon as he was born. They put him on oxygen for like a couple of hours and then he was fine. Very healthy besides that. He's a big boy. He was 9 pounds, 1 ounce when he was born. And I don't know how much he weighs now. I know at his 2-month checkup, he was like just over 14 pounds. So who knows? Because he just passed his 4-month, I don't know what you would call that. He just turned 4 months
Milestone. Yeah.
a few days ago. So anyway, he's very sweet. Um, he is pretty mild mannered for the most part. He's been becoming more aware in the past few weeks of like me leaving. And so
Mm-mm.
we've entered the screaming bloody murder phase when mom walks away, which has been interesting. But the same thing kind of happened with Eli. So I've kind of like navigated already how to
Been there,
like,
done that.
yeah. So typical baby development stuff. Um, Seth and Eli are doing really well. They love Liam, like Seth especially, I think now because he's older and he's like, I don't know, he's just like, he's not so much attached to me. He's more so attached to the siblings now. He just
Mhm.
like dotes on him like all day, every day. He loves to make him laugh and smile. And Liam, like, Seth can make him laugh more than I can. I don't know how, but he just like, he always finds a way to make him smile and giggle like all the time. And it's so sweet. So they love him. Obviously, like, you know, Jed is super grateful that he has another son. I'm still on estrogen island here. Um, but but it's so cool. Like I never if you had told me like 5 years ago that I would have 3 boys, I would have been like, "Really? Okay, that's kind of like hard to believe." But lo and behold, here we are.
I love
So
it.
yeah, yeah, I love it too. It's an all-boy household. Obviously, we would love a girl. I'd love to balance out the the testosterone a little bit, but,
Yeah.
you know, I'm surviving over here with all the boys. It's super fun, and I know I'm going to be very well taken care of as they get
Yes.
older, which is a huge blessing. So, yeah, besides, like, all of that, obviously, like, you know, postpartum is kind of a beast for almost everybody, and, it was actually probably the easiest recovery I've had so far, except for the like after birth pain stuff, which they say gets worse with each child that you have. That was the only thing that was like, whoa, like that was kind of intense. Yeah, nursing is going well. He's like growing like a weed. He's huge now. He's like in 6 to 9 month clothes. So he's a big boy. Besides that, like our church really helped us a lot, which was such a blessing. This is why we always say, like, get into a church that is like big on hospitality because you will be taken care of. And we were for sure taken care of, just like all the meals and prayers and support from everybody was really awesome. I've had lots of time to rest, and probably in the last like a month and a half, I've been kind of getting back into like my regular homemaking duties. Jed wasn't able to take a ton of time off of work because there's only so much that they can give you. Typically, like employers are kind of like stingy in the first year of employment.
Seriously.
So yeah, but my parents had just moved out like a couple weeks before my due date. So thankfully my mom was here to like help with the older boys while Jed went back to work, which made the transition much easier. And I think it's definitely true when people say like when you have one baby, when you only have one baby, it feels like 100 babies. And then when you have a lot of kids, one baby feels like no babies. Like if Seth and Eli were to like go somewhere else and I just had Liam, it would feel like I had no children at the house. But I like so clearly remember like when it was just me and Seth, it felt like I had 100 babies. It was so difficult. Like it was so hard. So I never tell moms or like new moms like, oh well, you only have one kid. Like it's imagine having three or like five. It's like, no, I remember like having one child was really difficult. Like your first is usually just kind of, it's such a like shell shock experience that it just like it's, yeah, the transition I think is was way harder going from no kids to one kid as opposed to like 1 to 2 and now 2 to 3. It's just like you're already in that like mom mode already, and you just like throw another baby in there, and then you throw another baby in there, and they just, they all kind of move up the line. So anyway, super blessed. The end of the year was a little rough. We had been sick for like almost a month straight with multiple illnesses. I think I'm still technically sick with the flu, apparently. I didn't know I was sick. I got tested. I went to urgent care, got tested last week, and she was like, "Oh, you have the flu." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay." I just have a little bit of a sore throat. I don't know. It was so weird, you guys. I just don't know about all the viral illnesses going around right now. Anyway, we were really sick, like severely ill for like a month and a half. Or no, sorry, a week and a half. And then it kind of started to get better. I was getting better and then I regressed really badly. And now I'm kind of like finally coming out of it. So it was rough. Take your vitamins, everybody.
Seriously.
It was really bad. So thankfully the only person who did not get sick this whole time was Liam. So yay for breastfeeding. That probably helped a lot. So he was the healthiest person out of the whole household for the past month and a half. Holidays went really well. We just stayed local, didn't really do any traveling. We have family that's like 30 minutes north from us. So we did some Christmas stuff with them. And then like Christmas and New Year's, we just did it here at the house. Like Jen and I on New Year's Eve. It was midnight. We said Happy New Year's. We had a little sip of champagne, and then we went to bed.
I love it. It's awesome.
It was just the two of us. So, yeah, it was good. Besides that, yeah, just like trying to get back into reading and back into baking. Now that Liam is like more on a consistent like sleeping schedule, I like have more of an idea of how our days are going to go as opposed to when they're a newborn. It just kind of feels like you just throw it all to the wind. You're just not really sure what's going to happen. But yeah, such is the new baby life. So Yeah, it's been going really well. And you guys came out
In September.
in September, towards the end of September,
Hmm.
and that was lovely. And it's very bittersweet because it's so nice having them here, but then it makes it so much harder when they have to
I
leave
know. We were there for
because
2 weeks.
I know it's like you get used to having you guys around, and then all of a sudden you're, thousands of
Gone
miles
again.
away, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, thankfully they were able to come um and meet Liam and like meet our church family, hang out with, our family, our side of the family that's, out here and everything. And yeah, it was really nice. So hopefully she will be back in the
Yes. Very
next
soon.
couple of months.
Hmm.
All right, your turn.
Oh, well, how can I top that? I mean, bringing a person into the world is like, and I'm like, well, I went to Utah a couple times. And I'm just kidding. I
Some
have,
light traveling.
yeah, we did a lot of traveling in the
Yeah, you
past few
did.
months. So yeah,
I
we've
feel
been
like you
to,
guys were gone like every other week.
yes, us and like our friends that we've been making in Nevada, they're like, you don't even live here because you just leave. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know. So yeah, we've gone to Utah twice. We've been to Oregon, where Ryan's family is now. We spent a week there. We spent 2 weeks in Tennessee, which was again like the best ever, seeing my little babies. And we've been to California probably a couple times in this past couple months too. And so yeah, lots of traveling, lots of really fun things. Like we've just been really blessed, and we've had so many people visit us, family, friends, random people that we've never met through our church, that hosting
Yeah.
pastors, hosting people, hosting our church in our home for dinner. We hosted for New Year's Eve, and it was awesome. We did a psalm sing, we had nachos, and it was just, I don't know, I've just been reflecting this week about just how blessed we really have been here, and our church family really has been a huge part of that. So really thankful for that. And one of the biggest things that has happened in the past couple months is I've been on a health journey with treating my TMJ. So if you don't know what TMJ is, it's the joint that connects your jaw to your skull. And I have had issues with TMJ pain and teeth grinding, teeth clenching, all kinds of stuff my entire life. Like ever since I had teeth, I think I've been doing this. My sister is a witness, and all my family members are a witness. And it has done some, I don't want to say irreparable, because we are working to repair, but there's a lot of damage done to my body because of that. And a lot of that has to do with a tongue tie that was never treated. So it's kind of a controversial subject. And I don't know if I'm going to do a YouTube video. I don't know if I'm going to do an Instagram video. I don't know how I'm going to share in detail, because I could spend like several hours talking about this, because I'm so passionate about it now. I've been in myofunctional therapy for several months, since mid-August. And it has been an insane journey, and there's been lots of highs, lots of lows. But overall, I'm in treatment for this. And Ryan and I decided to seek care because I got in a car accident with my husband and my parents when we first moved here. And that kind of escalated my symptoms to a point where it was like, I'm so miserable, I can't function anymore. So I started doing some hardcore research. And because we live in the Las Vegas area, we have so many resources. Like celebrities live here. We have the best doctors, just the best of the best, like anything you could possibly need with specialists, very niche specialists we have here. And so we wanted to take advantage of that while we live here. So I've been working with a myofunctional therapist, and long story short, I had to get a partial snip of my tongue tie. So it was like a mild procedure, and hopefully, and I'm still waiting to hear the call, but next week I will be getting my full-on tongue tie revision surgery, and I'm very excited, but I'm also nervous because the recovery for just the snip was very rough. It was like a week long of like me not being able to talk, my whole mouth being sore. It was very bad. And that was just for like a little bit of tissue, like very, very little got cut. But this is like a whole surgery with stitches and, they take a lot of stuff out. So if you think of me, pray for me for that. But that's all very exciting because that means that some of my chronic conditions, like with my TMJ pain, there's an answer to it. And we've been in the process, like I will never, ever, ever recommend somebody get, so an adult get a tongue tie revision without extensive myofunctional therapy. It has been such a blessing for me. And again, I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I plan to put this out here with tons of pictures of like before and after and videos, because I've been documenting this entire experience because I think that this can really help somebody, either somebody with their baby or their young child that has these symptoms now, or an adult that might be suffering with similar pain, and there might be an answer for you. So this has been like a huge part of my last 6 months is me getting treated for this. And unfortunately, I'm like in the middle of a TMJ flare up, so I'm in a lot of pain. But overall, things have been getting better, and like God has been using this experience to heal that part of my body. And so, yeah, so that's a huge, huge thing that's been going on. And I've also been seeking further fertility treatment. If you're in our Patreon or our Facebook group, you already know that we're seeking some more medical intervention with that. I had a HSG procedure done a couple of weeks ago, and that was also a very wild experience. It was probably one of like the top 5 worst pains I've ever experienced in my life. It was horrible, absolutely terrible. But God saw me through it, and He's using these means to help heal me. And a lot of things, we have a lot to be thankful for, so much to be thankful for. We're on the up and up with my health, but a lot of things with my chronic health issues are like, it's not like it's not like a staircase that you can just climb up and the end goal is like you're cured and everything's great and you get a baby.
Yeah, it's not linear.
Yeah, it's very like I'm like a great month and I'm like feeling so great, and then I have like several weeks where I'm like, no, like I'm in a flare up or things are going bad or like I don't know. So I'm very thankful. If I could take the last like 6 months into perspective, God has given me a lot of good days, a lot of good weeks, and I'm very thankful for that. And it's enabled me to be able to go and us to go travel and have fun and host people, and so I would have never been able to do this if my health was as bad as it was even a year ago. So I'm very thankful for that. Also very thankful for my new baby nephew, and I plan to go see him again in a couple months. We're waiting to get my tongue tie revision surgery scheduled so that we can kind of time my recovery and me going out there. So we're trying to figure that out right now. But in the meantime, I'm just enjoying being home, enjoy being a wifey. Like I said, I talked in the Patreon bonus episode this week about reflections of my first year being a stay-at-home wife, and I talk about all the good things and all of the difficult things I've encountered or the new temptations that I never struggled with before. Like I talked about all of it. So if you want, you can go and listen to that episode. Our sister tier and queen tier has all the bonus episodes for you. Okay, so that's it for our really long catch up. It was a long catch up because it's been a while. It really has been a while. But we have an exciting episode for you today because, new year, new you, everybody's thinking about their goals. And I would say like 75% or more of people's goals every year is to read more. And I think it's a great goal to have, but I feel like it's very unattainable if our goal is just to read more with no action steps and no lifestyle changes that are very sustainable, very consistent, easy for us to start getting ourselves into. So we want to talk to you guys. Marcella and I are big readers, and over the past couple years, specifically, we both have been kind of like rediscovering and rekindling that love for books and just making it a really big part of our life. And so we talk about books a lot on the podcast. We talk about like our favorite book of the month or our favorite book of the season or whatever. But we're going to talk to you less about the books that we like to read, but how we actually get so much reading done, regardless of it being 10 books in a year or 100 books in a year. Like reading in general is so enriching for our education. We talk about mother culture a lot, about mothers and women continuing their education beyond the school years, so that we can, one, homeschool our kids confidently if that's what the Lord has for our family, and also just for our own good and our own enjoyment and our own pleasure of enjoying reading and enjoying books and just immersing ourselves in other worlds and other people's thoughts. And it's just so good. So we're going to get straight into that today. So let's get into all of the practical stuff. So Marcella, do you want to like throw some of your thoughts out there first, and then I can just jump in?
I feel like, well, when we were doing our notes, we kind of had similar. Um, I'm sorry, guys. Mom brain is so bad right now. So if I'm pausing a lot, like if you hear a long pause in my sentences, it's catching up. It'll get there eventually.
Just put us
The
on
wheels are turning.
1.5, put us on 1.5 speed, and her pauses will be a lot shorter.
Um, we had similar like actionable steps. So the first one, I'm just gonna go like in order
Yeah.
on
you're
what's in
good.
the notes. So like switching your entertainment with reading. So kind of like how if you like to binge Netflix or like binge a show or something like that, like find a really good book series that you can binge, like trying to
Mhm.
replace those things. And I think sometimes, and we'll talk about this later, like, you know, reading for pleasure, like obviously there can be multiple genres that you're reading through, like maybe you're doing a nonfiction or a fiction, and some people like usually I have no less than 5 books going at a time in different formats.
I
I
have
know
like
it's
10.
I know. I think I capped out at one point at like 12 books that I had going on at one point. But I just can't keep that up at this in this frame of my life right now. So I'm like, I think I'm at like 6 or something like that right now
Okay.
that I'm going through. But like figure out what you're spending your time on, like your free time on. Is it watching TV? Is it scrolling social media? I mean, this is kind of like a no-brainer sort of a thing. But and we think like, well, duh, like if I want to read more, I have to like read more, which means you have to do less of something else. But it
Yes.
has to be intentional. Like you have to make a plan. Tonight after the kids go to bed, or tonight after I clean up the kitchen and, you know, get the dishes done and get the laundry folded and, you know, close out my day of homemaking or mothering or like whatever it is that you're, you know, trying to do, I'm going to read. Like you have to be really intentional about that, which
Mhm.
means, you know, obviously switching out what you're doing. You want to go over the next one?
Yeah. So one of the ways that I switch out my entertainment with reading is by optimizing my phone for reading. And I actually just posted a minute and a half little clip on my Bookstagram. So it's a book Instagram called at Good Reads by Gabby. And I had this little video where I essentially show you my phone screen and I show you how I optimize my phone for reading. So if you want a visual of what I'm talking about right now, head to Good Reads by Gabby on Instagram. And essentially what I do is I have all of my social media apps off of my home screen. I have to like go
Same.
into my app drawer. Like I have to
Yeah.
go out of my way. I still do it. Don't get me wrong. Like I doom scroll on TikTok just like the next person. But when I open my phone, it's not the first thing that my eyes see. So it's not the first thing that I'm being pulled to do. I also, like we've talked about in our digital minimalism episode, where I don't have any notifications on except
Mhm.
for my messaging apps. And even not even all my messaging apps have notifications on. I have to actually go into my app. So
Yeah.
when I open my phone, it's a welcoming environment for me to choose something that's enriching and not something that's just going to zonk me out for a couple hours. So I put all my reading apps, including my audiobook apps, my ebook apps, my Goodreads social media. That's the only social media I have on my home screen is my Goodreads because I get inspired there. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in the episode. But I have everything on my home screen so that when I open my phone, that's the first thing that I see. And I'm more likely to choose those things for entertainment than social media or other things that are just kind of time wasters. And don't get me wrong, I do still waste my time, but I waste my time a lot less. And
Yeah.
I'm all like I talk about with you guys all the time. I'm all about hacking my brain. If I can hack my brain to do something, and trick myself into doing something, then even better. You know?
Yeah.
So instead of kind of like what Marcella was saying, so if I'm really tempted, or not that it's like a bad thing or sinful, but what I mean by tempted is like if my goal is to read more, but I'm like tempted to binge a show that's like a certain kind of genre of a show. Like say I want to binge like one of my favorite television series of all times, Criminal Minds. And that's like what I want to watch. That's what I want to be entertained by. So then instead what I would have is an ebook or an audiobook or even a physical copy of a crime drama or a mystery. So if
Mhm.
I'm in the mood for that and that's what I want to watch on TV, then I'm going to find a really fun crime drama recommendation and start that book. That way I'm not okay, so like an unequal switch would be like I really want to watch Criminal Minds and then I grab Pride and Prejudice, the book.
Yeah.
Like that's not what I'm in the mood for. If I'm in the mood for a
Mhm.
crime drama, then I should just read a crime drama because then I'm reading and I'm stimulating my brain in a different way than I am if I'm watching it. So that's the things I would recommend for how you can switch your entertainment in a kind of a practical way that you can optimize your phone for that. And you said you do the same thing with your phone as well.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have like any social media apps on my home screen for that very reason because it can create a sort of roadblock for you if you have to go into like all of your apps to try to find it. And obviously like once you've done it enough times, it's still kind of a muscle memory thing. Like you know where to scroll like to get to
Yes.
Instagram and like TikTok and Facebook and
Yeah.
things
You'll
like that.
find
But
it. You'll find a
yeah.
way.
Yeah. But it is still like um
A deterrent.
it is a deterrent, yes.
Yeah.
If you're able to get those other things that you're like wanting to do more often
Mhm.
onto the first thing that you see when you open your phone, which is your home screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really important. Another way that you can read more is by joining a book club, either online or in person, or you can just start one yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I have not been brave enough to do so, but I have
Marcella,
been.
we're gonna have our own little private book club to read Cindy Rollins' new book.
Oh, you're right, right. But I feel like that doesn't like that's not like an official book club. Like that's just
It's
like
just like me and the homies just reading. It's literally just my sister and Shannon and I, because
yeah,
I bought them the new Cindy Rollins book, Beyond Mere
which
Motherhood.
looks so
I
good.
can't
I'm
wait.
really
I
excited.
can't wait. I'm so excited.
Um anyway, so yeah, that is a really good way to be held accountable because obviously you're reading with other people and you have to, finish it within a certain time. I don't think this is great so much if you're wanting to get a lot of books done at once because
Mhm.
usually it's more of a
Spread
like
out.
yeah, longer paced or a slower paced type of ordeal.
Mhm.
But if your goal is to just read more and say you're going from I have not read a book since high school or college or whatever and I just want
Yeah.
to start reading. Like 5 books is still more than what
Yes.
you were doing
Oh,
before.
yes. Any books is
Yeah,
better than no
one book
books.
would be more than what
Yeah.
you were doing before.
Yeah.
Um So yeah, so even if it's just like I'm only going to do books if they're part of a book club because I know it's the only way I'm going to get it done, then do it that way. That's
Yeah.
fine. And it's fun, especially if you're more of an extrovert, you like the discussion and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Um
It's also good if you want to read kind of a more dense book that's
Yes.
not like an easy read, because having the breaks and having some discussion with peers can
Yeah.
bring the book to life. And then you're like, oh, wow, I didn't think about this. I didn't think about that. That's
Bouncing ideas
awesome.
off of, yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we have done in the past in our Facebook group are book clubs. We did Let Me Be a Woman by Elizabeth Elliot. You guys just did the Love Comes Softly,
By Jeanette
right?
Oaks.
Are you guys still going through that? I have not
We
been keeping up with that
finished.
one.
We
Okay, okay.
finished like, I think the end of October, I'm pretty sure is when we finished. And it was wonderful. I think we had a dozen women that participated, which is like
Yeah,
great.
that's
And they
really
all
cool.
read like the Jeanette book, which is awesome.
Yeah. So another reason to join our Facebook group if you're like wanting to get into that, I think we probably need to talk about doing another book
The
club
next one.
pretty
Yes.
soon. So yeah, that pretty much covers like the book club
Okay,
stuff.
so another deterrent that I hear people say a lot is reading is too expensive of a hobby for me. And
Mm,
I think that it can be if the only way that you're getting books is getting a crisp, clean new book from Barnes and Noble, or you do an Audible subscription, which I'm all for. Like, if you can and you have the means to go and have that experience of going to like a mom and pop bookstore and it's super aesthetic and you
mm,
grab your book, or getting, if you have the means to do an Audible subscription. I've done that in the past, and I go back and forth between having an Audible subscription and then canceling it, and then when they have a deal
yes.
I'll like do it again. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. I do sometimes do Audible, but I think both of us, most of the reading that we do is books that we read for free. And how do we read them for free, Marcella?
Um, Hoopla, Libby,
Mm-hmm.
use your library.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, Also, there is kind of a hack with Kindle ebooks because the more books that you can buy, the more like isn't it like points or something like that you can
Mm-hmm.
rack up, which will end
Mm-hmm.
up going towards
More books.
more books.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't remember. I've purchased quote unquote purchased a lot of ebooks on the Amazon Kindle catalog. And I don't remember the last time I actually paid for any of them
Yeah. Same,
because
because
they keep paying for
Amazon,
themselves.
yeah, Amazon does another really cool thing that if you do a delayed shipping
Yes,
option,
that's right.
they will
Mhm.
give you $1, $2
It's the digital
digital credit.
rewards.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah,
And
that is
I
another good
so
way.
yeah, and Ryan and I use that for movie rentals sometimes
Same.
on
Mhm.
Amazon, or we use it for a book on ebook.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, and ebooks are a lot cheaper than getting a physical book. I love having a physical book, but sometimes if it's a new book that I really want to read and I just can't afford like the hardcover or anything, then I'll get like a half of the price for me to read it on my phone or on my iPad or
Mhm.
something. So yeah,
Yeah.
utilize your library. There are so many resources that your library has, and that is something that your tax dollars are going to. You're paying for that service. You should
Mhm.
use that service. So go get a library card and then sign up for the Hoopla app. And all you need to do is put your library information and it'll have a whole catalog. And Hoopla is the best app because it does instant downloads.
Yes.
So you don't have to do any waiting time for any books. Now, Libby is a little bit
Most of the
harder.
time, I have actually heard that in some counties, Hoopla does
Mm,
have.
okay.
It just depends. Like I would say
Where you live.
download both Hoopla and Libby because some people have better success with one than
Hmm.
the other. Because what they do is your county library essentially purchases a certain amount
Copies.
of
Yeah.
audiobook copies.
Hmm.
So depending on what the funding is like for the library and things like that and what they're able to get, like sometimes there might be like waiting for a Hoopla audiobook. Most of the time it's Libby that's like you're having to wait months for a book. I don't like Libby as much. They have
Newer
newer
ones. They
options.
they literally have like every time there's a new release, it's like immediately on Libby.
It's on
Yeah.
Libby and you can get it for free, but you're paying the price by
Of waiting.
of taking
Yeah.
a really long time.
Yeah.
So it might be a few months until you can actually get it. But again, it just depends. I would get
Yes.
both and then like mess around with it to see
Yeah,
which is faster.
and both Hoopla and Libby also have music and
Yes.
movies and Kindle books, ebooks. I've borrowed ebooks from both Libby and Hoopla as well. So not
Mhm.
just audiobooks, there's a ton of resources. And again, you are already paying for this service with your tax dollars. Use that
Yeah.
service, use that resource for you and your kids. There's so
Mhm.
much resources for kids on these apps as well.
Mhm.
Another resources that I'd like to mention is LibriVox. So LibriVox has public domain books that people volunteer to read, and it is a free service. And so it's a great resource. I've listened to two of Charlotte Mason's volume series for free. Volume 1 and Volume 6 I'm reading currently, and I listen to it while I read because it's a little bit more of a dense book. So I like to listen to it on LibriVox while I'm reading the copy on my iPad so I can mark it up and highlight it and stuff. So that's another great resource for any old books, any classics, any books that are public domain are there for free. I guarantee somebody's read it and they volunteer to do it. So it's really cool. Okay, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but only read what you are really excited about at first, especially if you're new, getting your feet wet
Mhm.
in the reading world. Don't read something that you're like, well, everybody else is reading this, or I'm
Yeah.
going to jump straight into the classics, or I'm going to jump
Oh,
straight
yeah,
into
that's a bad place to start.
no. And I've done that. I've done that where I'm like, I really want to read this book because I'm really interested in this topic, but it's like this giant, dense, like more like a professor wrote it and it's like a PhD book. And I'm just like, I set myself up for failure. So begin to read for pleasure, not as a chore, and follow your interests. If there's certain genres that you're attracted to more, then start there. And then you could start kind of building up like the things that you would like to read. Like, I think that when I first started reading a lot again a couple of years ago, I was just reading like not dumb books, just like almost like twaddle, like just kind of like just
Mm.
reading to read, just so that I'm reading something, I'm exercising that muscle of reading again and giving my attention to a book. Um, but then I started branching out, and now I feel like I can basically read anything. Like we just read Pilgrim's Progress, us and a bunch of friends, and we read. I think all of us read the like one of the original translations, which is more like KJV English.
Mhm.
And so I feel like before, if I would have read that a few years ago, I would have been like,
Mm.
this is really difficult. I cannot do this. But since we've been kind of reading a lot of Puritan books and we've been kind of
Yeah.
like exercising that muscle, and like I've been reading more Jane Austen and more like in Charlotte Mason, she there and Victorian books, and I read Dracula. I feel like I wasn't able to get there yet until I had like exercised the muscle of reading and
Yeah.
attention to
Yeah.
other things, and then start working my way up to these books that I was like, these are the books that everybody says are like, this is what you need to achieve. And this is such a great book. And I can appreciate it. I can appreciate Dracula so much because I can understand it and read it. And I'm like, sometimes there's a few little things where I'm like, "Well, I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to move forward. And one day I'll know what it means." You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But, but don't just like jump in full force and be like, I'm going to start with reading Shakespeare. I'm going to start with reading the Puritans. And because you can get discouraged really easily. Do you have any thoughts
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say also, like, don't be discouraged because sometimes, like, the reading for pleasure can be birthed out of reading for necessity. And that can
Yeah.
be like from, you know, I really gotta like read up on this health topic or something that's more like this is kind of like a necessity sort of thing and like oh this is so boring and all these different things but I do find like after you kind of get into it and you're like wow I'm feeling really confident about the knowledge that I'm gaining and like the decisions that I can make for my family and things like that it becomes more of like a hobby reading type thing. So
Yes,
like
totally.
don't be like like I said, discouraged that man, this is like I don't want to, look into this and but I have
Mhm.
to because, we got to make a decision about this topic or whatever and whether it's the kind of education your kids are going to have or like theological distinctions and like things like that. Like sometimes you do have to kind of like you
Push
know
through.
buckle down and like just do
Yeah.
it. But then I feel like you can come out of it just with so much more confidence on a topic and
Mhm.
like, wow, like I feel like I can really grasp this so much
Mhm.
better now and explain it to people and we can be like really solid on a decision that we're going to make. So it can go both ways. But
Yeah.
if you're just like I have nothing going on that I need to like research or anything like that, like definitely reading for pleasure is like a huge
Good
um
place to start.
yeah, it's a really good place to start for sure. Okay. Next thing is listening to audiobooks while you're doing monotonous tasks. Now, this can kind of go hand in hand with what we're going to talk about after this. So I'll kind of like meld these two together, which is
Yeah.
having multiple books with multiple formats so that you can read no matter what you're doing or where you are. So if you're having to fold laundry, like things that are more hands on, you're doing laundry, you're having to cook, you are doing the dishes. Obviously, you can't necessarily be holding a book and doing those things at the same time. I mean, I guess maybe you can, but I feel like if I'm washing dishes, I gotta look at the dishes to make sure they're clean. Like I can't be like I can't have a book propped up in front of me necessarily while doing the dishes. It just does not some people might be able to do that if you can. I don't know how you're doing it. But so things like that. If you have something that's more hands-on, you can't hold a physical copy of a book, you have an audiobook going. If you are, let's say you're like, sitting in school pickup line, or if you're waiting at grocery pickup or something, either have a small physical copy that you can carry with you in the car, or even if you're waiting at the doctor's office for an appointment, or you're waiting at the chiropractor or whatever, have an ebook going because you can literally just like pull your phone out
Mhm.
and it's not like super like attention drawing, I guess, because it is like it's not normal, so to speak, to like see somebody like reading a physical book like in public spaces. Which I wish it were more of a normal thing because that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But for them, like nobody's gonna second like do a double take if you have your phone out, and you could still be
Right.
reading in that instance. So having multiple formats going that way, you can always pick up something wherever you are, is
Mhm.
really helpful so that you are like never without, I guess.
Yes.
Um,
No, I like this. And also, it really melds into the next point of keeping books in different rooms of your house for
mm,
an easy grab. I'm pretty
bring
sure.
back the toilet books.
Yeah, let's bring back the toilet books. You guys remember when your grandma or like elderly family member had like Reader's Digest in her bathroom
I think
and
my
you
grandma literally has.
she did that and she might still.
She like currently has like toilet books still. I'm pretty
I
sure
want
I was reading one of them like a few weeks ago.
Okay, I'm
And it was
laughing
so
because
interesting. I was like, I'm really into this. Like, I don't want to get up.
I want to bring back the toilet book. My grandma is the only one still doing it. I'm pretty sure because I've never seen anybody have a toilet book. And I literally love it so much. Okay, so it's really sad because I don't want to like desecrate this book by saying I read it on the toilet, but I read, oh my gosh, I don't even have my phone on me, so I couldn't even tell you. Humble Roots by, oh, what is her name? Hannah Smith. I don't want to say her name wrong. I don't think it's Hannah Smith. Let me check. It's on my Goodreads Instagram, so I'm just gonna like flip there really quick. Yeah, I read it on the toilet and I literally read the whole thing on the toilet. Like, I'm pretty sure. Oh my
Just
gosh,
like
I
bit
literally
by
can't
bit.
find it. Yes, yes. Okay, here it is. Humble Roots by Hannah Anderson. Okay, I had her first name right. Humble Roots by Hannah Anderson. I think I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite, but it's not because I was on the toilet. But it was a book that I was kind of like suffering through a little bit because like I don't know. It
Not a
wasn't.
good promotion for poor Hannah. Dissing her book.
It wasn't like the book was bad. I just maybe just it wasn't for me, you know? Like it had a lot of like good tidbits, but like I don't know. I think overall like I was kind of like pushing through it and then I was
Wait,
like
is that
I
one you
need
literally just finished?
No, no, no. I read this so long ago. Like
Oh,
last
wait.
year, early last year I finished it.
What was the other one you just recently finished and you were like, meh?
I mean, I feel like there was a lot of them. I feel like I started 2024 with like 3 books that I just didn't care about at all, and I was
I'm
really
gonna find out
struggling
on
with them.
Goodreads.
But yeah, so I read that book on the toilet, and I don't think I would have finished it if I didn't have it on the toilet book because I didn't want. I kept it like in a little basket on top of my toilet where like my tissues were and stuff like that. And I and I read it anytime I had to
Oh,
spend a little
Hannah,
bit more
it
time.
was the Garden of the Midnights. It was a different Hannah. Hannah
Oh,
Linder.
okay. I love Hannah Linder. I literally love that girl so much. She's so cute. I love all her books. This is the first book that I was like, I didn't really care about it. I hated it. I didn't
Okay,
hate it. I just didn't like it that much.
where do you start with Hannah Linder?
I would start. Oh, that is such a great question. So she does Regency novels and she's a Christian. And she likes to do like gothic kind of a little suspense, a little mystery, but then there's always a
Mm,
romance and it's like and there's always twists. Very good. I would start with Beneath His Silence
okay, it's on my
by
TBR.
Hannah Linda. So good. Hannah Linder, so good. I've read all of her books and I have been on her um promo team for 3 of her books and I love her. I love her so much. She's great. We should support her. We should buy her books. I just wasn't a fan of Garden of the Midnights. I don't know. I feel really bad because I want to give every book of hers 5 stars because I love her so much. I just didn't really like it. But anyway, that is not what this podcast is about. All I was trying to say is I think we should be reading on the toilet because I'm just saying, like, you're going
Do
to
you
be doing
think
something.
like how much like reading you can get done in like 5 to 10 minutes?
Yes, I finished an entire book on the toilet, you guys. It was several toilet sittings, but I read an entire book on the toilet, okay? And I think we need to bring it back. Also, what Marcella said, a car book.
Yeah.
Get a car book. Put it in your glove. I always say department because Ryan says that. Glove compartment.
Glove department?
He always
Like
says glove
like
department.
purposefully? Does he think that's actually what it's called?
Yes.
Wait,
And I
seriously?
always say it's compartment, but now he's conditioned me to think that it's department. Put a book in your toilet. In your glove
In your
department.
toilet. On would be preferable instead of in.
Okay. So Cindy Rollins says that she has a book in every room of her house and she just like grabs it. She just like sees a book. She's like, oh, I'm going to read that. And it's just cool. I want to be Cindy Rollins for many reasons.
Yeah,
That is one of them. That is one of the reasons is she has a book in every room of her house and she just as she's walking by and she's like, oh, pick this up for a couple minutes, read a few pages. All right, go to the kitchen. Pick that book
Yeah.
up, read it for a couple minutes. It's
I
cute.
think I think we have this this wrong idea that if we're gonna read, we have to have like an hour to dedicate
Okay, this
to
goes into
reading.
your point. This goes into your next point.
Yes, which is picking okay, this can go two different ways. If you are the kind of person who is like, look, I tried picking up a book when I can sort of a thing, which if I'm getting 10 minutes here and 5 minutes here and whatever. I think that can honestly work for a lot of people, and I think we like underestimate how many books you can get done by like plotting through them, just doing like little bits at a time. But what could also be helpful is picking an ideal reading time to be consistent. Like, don't try to be all like aesthetic girly, like I'm gonna wake up at 6:30 and I'm gonna do my workout and then I'm gonna read 2 chapters of this book. Like, if that is not you, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
if your ideal time is between after breakfast snack and lunchtime, and you know you're gonna have 20 minutes of the kids are gonna be occupied playing, or they're
Mhm.
gonna be doing like some schoolwork or something or whatever, use that 20 minutes. Have that time. This is mommy's reading time here.
Mhm.
And another thing that actually was like, I've implemented quite a few times now with Seth and Eli, which I actually learned from my mother-in-law. Shout out to Cindy. I don't know if she listens to the podcast, but if she does, she
Cindy's
told
the
me
real
that,
OG. She's the real OG homeschool mom.
yeah, she's like real OG crunchy also.
Yes.
She told me that whenever she would go to social events or whatever, she would take the kids to somebody's house or whatever, do play dates or whatever. She would tell the kids that she would have like a cup of tea. If her tea was not finished, then it was not time to leave. It wasn't until she drank the very last of her tea, and she said the kids would always come. So instead of interrupting the whole time while she's trying to visit with her other friend or whatever, she would just tell them, "You can just come and look in my teacup, and if all the tea's gone, then it means it's time to go. If it's not gone yet, then we're still going to stay." And I've
Mhm.
implemented that as if I have like reading time, or if you're wanting to do like quiet time, like scripture, prayer, and it's like I can't fit this in unless the kids are awake. Like, this is the only time that I'm able to do it. I can't do it when they're napping. I can't, like, there's other, logistically, it's the only time I can do it. You get whatever, your mug, coffee, tea,
Your
or whatever
bevy.
it is. Yeah, your beverage of choice. And you tell them, if you need me, unless somebody's dying or bleeding, or, you have to discipline somebody, you may not interrupt me until you see that all of my coffee or tea is gone. And that may be like your set time in the day. And obviously, this is like only applicable if you have kids. But if you have like other responsibilities, homemaking things, like things you have to be on top of, you have your, day time blocked. Find a time in the day that's going to work the best. And if that means that, you aren't reading the first thing in the morning because it's like, well, it's the most productive thing that I could do. But if it's like your brain is not on at that point and you're like, I'm so groggy, like all I can think about is like getting breakfast in me, getting coffee, like getting the dishwasher unloaded and those things, don't do it at that time. Like, do it at a time where
Yeah.
you're more alert, you can dedicate more time to it, that sort of a thing. But yeah, if you can do 5 minutes here, 15 minutes here. Like, if you can't do like a huge time block and it's like, I really can only do tidbits here and there, that can sometimes add up to more at the end of the day than
Yeah.
you setting aside 30 minutes, all at once. If you don't have 30 minutes, well, if you have 15 minutes here, 15 minutes here, and 15 minutes here, that's still more time than you getting that one longer session in.
Mhm.
So don't worry about, wow, I only read 2 pages. Okay, so do 2 pages. That's
Yeah.
fine.
If you do that every day for a couple months, you can read a short book and
Yeah,
finish it.
yeah, totally. Yeah. And if you're doing it throughout the day, like, I can guarantee you, even the busiest person can take 5 minutes to read
Yes.
a day. I don't care if you're like, I have no idea, like, it's just so crazy. Like, I can guarantee you can find at least 5 minutes in
You
your
know
day.
what makes me think of that really funny TikTok that we always joke about the guy that's like too busy to hang out with people, and he
Oh
talks
yeah,
about
yeah.
like how many jobs he has, how many people he has to take care of. Like, you guys, and I wish I could literally link it. I don't remember if there's profanity on it. I might put it on our Patreon because it's so funny, you guys. I literally die so much, but it's about like how I'm too busy to go to the movies with you. And that's how I feel
Oh,
when I
yeah.
talk to people about reading. They're like, oh, must be nice. Like, I'm so busy. Do you know how many jobs I have? How many kids and animals I have? And it's like this long drawn out thing. And I'm like, okay, well, you had enough time to tell me how busy you
Yeah.
are. So if you would have read in that amount of time, you would have read a couple pages. I don't know.
Yeah. I think also like I'm gonna exploit Shannon here, but she's like a really she's like a really good like example of having a lot going on, and she is literally a maniac. Like how many books did she say she read last year?
Like
180
183, I
something?
believe.
Like an insane amount of books. I don't think we can comprehend.
I physically can't. I'm gonna be that person that's like, I'm too busy. I think my brain would explode. Like, that woman is a machine. That she's
Yeah,
not a person. She's a robot.
literally. But like, she's got 5 kids.
And
She's
a homestead.
homeschooling. She has her own hobby homestead farm situation. She has on top of that, she has a million chronic illnesses that she's like
She still read 183 books.
scratch. Um Taking care of multiple children 5 and under. She's involved in her community, super involved in church, all these different things. And she's an admin for almost every Facebook group under the sun. I don't understand how that woman survives. And she still finds time to come and hang out with me late at night.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody tells me, I'm like, can I introduce you to somebody? You're busy? Sorry, what?
Anyway,
I think the thing is let's all be honest. Let's all be honest with each other. You don't want to read enough. Like, that's just
yeah.
the thing. It's like we make time for things that we care about. I
Mhm.
make time somehow. Today I watched 2 hours of TikTok. I don't know how. Somehow, I don't know. It was 5 minutes of just me just being burp, 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 burp. Okay. And doing that probably 100 times somehow. It's like you make time for if I
Yeah.
had opened my phone and did on my Kindle app for 5 minutes, I would have already been done with another book by now, you guys. Like, you make
Yeah.
time for what you care about, no matter
Yeah.
how busy, no matter how overwhelmed, no matter how much your brain is about to explode. If you have the brain capacity to scroll on TikTok, you have the brain capacity to listen to a really chill, casual book. Nobody's
Yeah.
telling you to start with Austen or the classics or something. Like, nobody's telling you that. Just start somewhere. Start
Mhm.
somewhere. I promise
Yeah.
you, when you get over that hump of this is too hard, I don't have time and I don't have the brain capacity for it, your whole world is going to open up. I
It can
feel
get
like
addicting. Mhm.
I feel like I'm a different person than there was pre-reading Gabby and then there's
Wow,
post-reading Gabby.
Same.
I like post-reading Gabby so much better.
Yeah, same.
She's more educated. She cares more about other things. She enjoys story so much more. I just feel like it changed me. It genuinely changed me. And I don't want to be Gabby before books ever again. I don't like her.
Yeah.
She's boring. She's simply boring. Okay?
Yeah. I think another way to kind of plan your reading goals is not just if you're wanting to do this stint of time in my day or whatever. You can also do that by doing a number of pages or a page count that you want to get done daily. It could be 5 pages of a book. It could be 50 pages of a book. It doesn't really matter. And then I also think doing, you and I both kind of do this, and I think probably a lot of people do, is having something specific for your like Sabbath reading.
Yes.
Um, that kind of like helps freshen it up for the weekend. You know, if you're kind of reading the same, say you have a rotation of 4 books going, you're reading those same 4 books, but then you have this like one special book, like for your
Mm-hmm.
Sabbath reading. I think that's also like really motivating too. Gives you something different and like something to look forward to. What
This
is
is
that?
my Sabbath book right now. It's The
The
Law of
Law of Kindness.
Kindness by Mary Beakey, Joel Beakey's
Oh,
wife.
okay.
Beautiful, beautiful woman. Beautiful, beautiful book. I'm halfway through, as you can see, and I've been reading it for probably 6 months because this is just for the Sabbath. And
Mm,
it's my very special book. So I have a Sabbath hard copy book, and then I do an audiobook too when I'm getting ready for church. And so those are my special
nice.
Sabbath books. And those things are so, it is, like you said, it kind of like resets you a little bit.
Mhm,
And it's something special for the Lord's Day. And I love it. It's great.
mhm.
Another way you can read more is by getting a reading light. They have them at the dollar store. They have them on Amazon. They have them at Walmart, and you just clip it. I don't know if do I have mine? No, mine's literally next to my bed. I have one that's next to my bed, and then I have a book that I can clip it to, and I have my nighttime reading. So what I do for nighttime reading, and again, this ebbs and flows because sometimes I'm not feeling well and I want The Office on, or I'm gonna doom scroll. That is not the Gabby I want to be. Okay. That is the Gabby that struggles. Okay. When I'm being my best self, I read before I go to sleep instead of scrolling. And I have a habit stack. So I have my red light going. I'm laying on
Mhm.
my acupressure mat, and I like get my fertility monitor on, and I'm like, it's time for bed. I have my little water next to me, and then I get out my reading light, and my brain is like, it already knows it's time to go to bed. So I'm starting to get sleepy, and I read something very casual. This is not the time for
Yes.
me to be reading something very intense. I read something, usually, you know what I've been reading? I've been reading like, they're not boring books, like kind of just like monotone, like it's not like a crazy story with lots of twists and
They're
turns
very
that's going to stimulate.
casual.
Very
Yes.
casual. I like read a homemaking book by this woman named Kate Singh, and it wasn't my favorite either. I gave it 3 stars, but it was like exactly what I needed, exactly what I needed for my nighttime reading, because it was
Mhm.
casual. I liked her. I even like, okay, Mere Motherhood by Cindy Rollins was like, made it on my top 5 favorite books of the year last year, and I read that book before bed every night because it was very casual. It was just like about her life, and it was just so chill, and I just loved
Mhm.
like the tone she had, and that was a perfect before bed. It wasn't like overstimulating or like causing me to get like more excited before bed. What about
Yeah.
you? Do
Yeah, yeah, that's not the time to be reading, like, medical studies or, like or,
an
like, a
intense
really
drama?
yeah, an intense, like, mystery,
Yeah.
type thing where you're like, "I have to finish this book because I want a cliffhanger, like, every other
Yeah, no.
page."
That's
Those are
not
bad
too
times
that's
to read
yeah.
those books. Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
trying to be up until, like, 4 in the morning. Maybe that's why Shannon
No,
read
thank
so many
you.
books because she got no sleep.
She just That's the answer. She didn't sleep the whole year.
Oh, man, okay. Um, Another thing is reading out loud to your kids. Now, obviously, I think when we think of like reading out loud to our kids, we're like, okay, but those are like
Picture books.
they're like picture books. Like, okay, but it can also like if it's enriching for your child, it can also be enriching for you.
Yes,
Like
especially if
if
you're reading living books.
yes, I was gonna say, especially if you're reading living books, it can especially be it's appropriate for all ages. Um Yeah, reading to your kids. And I think also something that can like be tagged onto that is reading or reading to your kids, if that makes sense. Like there are
Mm,
lists of books that I have that I know that either I'm going to want my sons to read one day or it's going to be on, I'm going to want to read these out loud to my kids one day. So I want to read it first. I mean, obviously, you can't necessarily like vet every book, but it's like, man, like I would really love to, go through, say, like Ambleside Online's book lists, like
Mhm.
start trudging through those, starting at, I don't know, even if you're starting at like year one. Like there are so
Yeah.
many books that I am now finding out like so many adults did not read. Like the E.B. White books. Like
So
I'm like
sweet.
I will ask people like, "Have you ever read like Charlotte's Web or like
Mm.
what's the other one? Trumpet of the Swan?"
Yes, The Swan. Yeah.
Um like those are like, yes, they're children's books, but like those can also be really good like nighttime picks
Yes.
as well. Like very casual, soothing,
Mhm.
um, an easy read sort of a
Yeah.
thing.
I've
Um
listened for there was like a period, I think earlier last year, where I was listening to Anne of Green Gables before bed
Mhm,
or The Little Princess before bed. And it was perfect because it was comforting. It was a good
mhm.
story, but like I picked a narrator that had a really soothing voice, and it was like, this is everything I need. And I put a
Yeah.
timer on my phone so it would turn off because I was like, I'm falling asleep to this. And it was great.
Yeah, so figuring out, okay, what are the children's classics that I know if you only have young kids, like for instance, like I'm not in formal homeschooling right now. Like my oldest is 4. But there are books that I'm trying to get through that I think we did read quite a few of the classics when we were
Mhm.
homeschooling, thankfully. But there are
Yeah.
also like a lot of them that I did not end up getting to, especially when I reached middle school and high school. That it the curriculum back then it was extremely intense, very
Mhm.
exhaustive, and you just could not get to like everything. So there are things that I'm wanting to either revisit or I'm like, I never actually read this and I would really love to because I know that this is a classic and I know that like if I end up really loving it and eventually like my kids are going to read it or it's going to be a read aloud sort of
Yeah.
a situation. So also having using that as motivation I think is like really useful, a really useful
Yeah.
tool.
No, I agree. Um, Another thing that can kind of go hand in hand with reading to your kids is narrating or discussing what you're reading, discussing what you're reading with your kids and to your kids with them together. This is one of like the biggest things in the Charlotte Mason world is teaching
Mhm.
your kids how to narrate, how to tell back what they read. And one of the things when I started reading very seriously again that I started doing because Charlotte Mason is the one that inspired me to like have the love for books again. I owe everything to that woman. She's just the best. But I started narrating, like talking about what I was reading to literally everybody, mostly my husband, who's so patient with me. And I
I
would just like
know sometimes
talk.
I'll like get on something with Jed and he's like, what?
I'm like, I just need to flesh this out with somebody right now, you know? And I was talking with you a lot about what I was reading. I was talking to my friends and getting excited and like talking about what you're reading is great accountability to finish the book, to
Mhm.
continue reading the books. Because if you tell people that I am a reader, I read books, then now people associate books with you. And now it's like a sort of accountability of like, she reads, she is well
Yeah.
read. And so now it makes this level of like, okay, people care about what I think about books, you know? And so
Mhm.
I'm going to keep reading books because it's like it's sort of beginning this community of like people around you where everybody's talking about books. And we've seen this happen in our own friend group where now we have like a little like group chat about all of the Puritan books that we read and our Christian living books that we've been reading, and we're reading together and we're encouraging each other. And then we have this like little fantasy offshoot where we're reading fantasy books together. And it's just
Mhm.
like so amazing that now we're like talking about reading and we're encouraging each other to read. And now we've like started this like community of readers around us, and it motivates you. It really truly does motivate you to keep reading when you're talking about what you've read, what you've been reading. And that's where you can start. You can literally make waves in your direct community just by talking about books, just by talking
Mhm.
about what you've read. Even if you've only read one book so far and you're really
Yeah.
excited about talking about that book, it really made an impact on you. Starting there can make huge waves in your
Mhm.
direct community, in your family. It's just
Mhm.
I've seen, even just with like Ryan and I, like we're like challenging each other, and I'm always encouraging him to read more. And like we both, now that we're on the same page that we both want to read a lot, like our nighttime routine is like we get excited like to go to bed so that we can read. Like we're just so excited. And it's something that we do together now, you know? And it starts with you deciding, I'm going to start reading and I'm going to start talking about it. I think it just gives a level
Yeah.
of accountability, and it's also just a way to make books come to life. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Um, Not that specifically, but I did want to add on a point. This is super random, and I like literally just thought of this. But if you struggle with gossiping as a sin, you should
Wow.
read more. Because if the
Yes.
only thing that you have to talk about is other people, you probably need to expand your horizons. And with, intaking more information, like get books on topics that you are genuinely interested in. Again, like a huge motivator for reading for pleasure. Um, and also it just gives you the confidence. It makes you a better conversationalist, like
Mm,
generally, because you have more knowledge, you are more like well educated if you're well read and those sorts of things. You will have more things to talk about as opposed to just
yes.
talking about other people. So
Wow.
that can be like a huge motivator as well. If you're like, I know I struggle with this. This is really hard for me. Like, I feel like the only thing that I can really connect with other people on is other people and like, the drama and like, whatever it is. That's probably a good sign that you aren't like getting there is not enough information that you're intaking that's stimulating your mind and your conversations to where you aren't having to jump to that first.
Yeah.
And like once you start reading those things, it's like you will feel more confident in the conversations that you have more information about whatever it is, or even if it's not just like information, but just like talking about ideas and
Mm,
and things like that. Like even if it's just, well, I'm reading like fiction stuff. It's not really like information. That's still like it's still a story. It's still ideas. Like that
yes.
is way more edifying than gossiping. Anyway.
Yes. I love it. And I wanted to add something like okay, so this is like a really special thing that me and Ryan's grandma Mary have with each other. Like she and I bond about books, and we specifically bond over World War II fiction, historical fiction,
Huh.
but usually around World War II, because we both have like a lot of our favorite books are like that. And she started like lending me
Mm,
books. She started giving me recommendations.
mm,
And it really nourished our relationship together because we have like
mhm.
this connection. It's like our thing. Every time we see each other, she's like, "What have you been reading?" And then she's like,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and then she
That's
and then she
cool.
talks to me and she's like, "Oh my goodness, you have to read this one. I just finished it, and you need to get your Goodreads out right now. Add it to your Goodreads." And she's like, "You know what? I'm just going to give it to you." It just turns into like this super like it makes you connect so much with others when you start
Yes.
talking about what you're reading, and then they're like, "Wait, I love to read that too," or "I'm really into this." And it just, like you said, it's like something to talk about that's like very special. And I've seen
Mhm.
that specifically in my relationship with Grandma Mary, because I feel like before I like had a hard time like connecting with her like about like things that we like have in common and stuff. But now like but now I'm like her, I'm into an embroidery too, and now her and I are connecting over embroidery too, and she's
That's
given me a bunch
cool.
of
Yeah.
embroidery stuff. But the first thing that we really connected on in our relationship was books. And so it's
Mhm.
just so cool. Like when you
Yeah.
start reading, it just gives you this insight into this other world of like people that care about these sort of things. And historical fiction is not like this, like, wow, this is like so deep. But like we just
Yeah.
connected over loving characters, loving story, and
Mhm.
thinking of and talking about how inspirational they are, how much courage they had. And
Mhm.
it's just so cool for your relationships with others, especially with older people that you know love to read. It's like
Mhm.
a bridge for our
Yeah,
generations. Books
definitely.
are a bridge from older generations to us and then us to the younger generations. It's just so cool. It's just such a gift from God. Story is such a gift from God.
Um, let's see.
We got 3 more points. This is a
Okay,
long episode, y'all.
yeah, this is gonna
We
be
could
like
talk about this subject. I could probably think of 20 more points because I
yeah,
just feel like
honestly.
this is just such a,
Maybe
like, big part
maybe
of our
we'll
life
do
right
like
now.
a part 2 Patreon exclusive
Yeah, so cool. That
situation.
sounds great.
Okay, next thing is to have a book rotation. If you suffer from a short attention span, or if you're just coming out of like my attention span is so fried from doom scrolling every night, like the only thing I'm doing is like watching TikToks or watching reels, and like if this video does not get to its point within 10 seconds, I'm leaving. Like if that's
Oof.
you, then you probably suffer from really short attention span. But I've heard of some people doing this where they have like, find 3 or 4 books that you want to have going at once and do 10 minutes at a time in each book. And that could be, I have 10 minutes here in my day, I have another 10 minutes here, I have another 10 minutes here. But have them like rotating. Like you go on to the next one that's on top of your stack, and
Mm,
you put that one down at the bottom. And you go to the next one on top of the stack. And then when you finish your 10-minute stint, you go down, that one goes down to the bottom, and so on and so forth. So if you feel like, some people may do better with, well, I just want to go through one book at a time and finish it much faster. But if you feel like, I don't know if I can stick with this one book and
mhm.
only read that book like for the next 2 weeks, then
Yeah,
have a few going on. Obviously, you're going to be, I guess, technically finishing them slower, but you have more going at a time. So in a way, it
yeah,
does sort of even out. But if you struggle with the attention span thing, I think having multiple books going on
yeah.
can be helpful.
No, that's a great, point because yeah, I struggle with short attention span sometimes. And if I'm like sitting down to like do some intentional reading and I know I only have to dedicate 10 minutes, sometimes I end up going beyond that because I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm actually really enjoying this. But
Mhm.
giving myself only the 10 minutes, kind of like what I do with Fly Lady stuff. If I just put a timer for 15 minutes, but then I'm like, oh, I'm actually motivated to do a
You're
little
like
bit
in a
more.
groove. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you can use that same method for book reading.
Mhm.
Another thing, if you feel like you need some extra motivation or you do like the social media aspect of reading, I have a couple recommendations for you. One is to get on Goodreads. Both Marcella and I are on Goodreads. I will make sure we always link our Goodreads accounts in our Patreon, but I'll make sure to do it again. And I'm sure you can find it somewhere on our Facebook group. We've linked it there several times as well. But Goodreads is great for recommendations from making friends that love to read, and also for accountability because you can update your progress and you have like
Mhm.
3 different shelves. One is like what you're currently reading, one shelf is what you want to read, and one is books that you've read. And you can even have a challenge for yourself. I want to read 12 books this year, and you can kind of watch your progress. Um,
And it's
really, really
also very
cool.
satisfying, like, updating your progress on a book.
Complete. I
Yes.
love
Yeah.
I love pushing that finished button. It's just such a dopamine hit, and then you can
Yeah.
put little ratings, you could put reviews, or even if you don't want to and you just want to say you read it, then it's just a nice visual thing, but also it's great for community and learning about other books. I've met some really cool people on Goodreads, and you can kind of see that they read similar books to you, and then you end up like finding more recommendations. And you're like, whoa,
Yes.
I haven't
Yeah,
heard
I was
about this
gonna
book.
say, it's a good way to, like, broaden your reading, definitely. Because if you found, like, one book on Goodreads or, or this one author specifically, and you like this one book from this one author, you can like branch out so far, or even if it's like, I really like this book on this specific topic. And then you can kind of see, other people who have read that book, see their reviews. If they really liked it, you can go to their profile and see if they have other
Yeah.
similar things that they really liked. Like the possibilities are endless with how many books
Yeah.
you can add. Like I have a really high amount of books on my TBR. It's kind of
Me too.
embarrassing.
It's kind of overwhelming.
I have like almost 500, I think. It's so bad.
I wonder how many I have.
I'm pretty sure.
You think you have more than me?
I have
Wow.
500
Yeah, you
and
do.
5.
I have 210 want to read.
I have more than
That's insane, dude. If somebody tells me about a book, I'm like, oh, just add it to the list. I don't even think about it. I'm just like, oh well. I just feel like there's so many books to read. So, eventually I'll get to them, even if I'm old, one
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Goodreads is really cool. You can also follow a lot of authors that are still active and still writing books. You can follow them and you can see what they're reading, which is really cool.
Oh, yes.
Cindy
so
Rollins, who we keep name dropping her in this episode, but I'm sorry, she's just the queen of books. She also has a podcast called Literary Life, and she co-hosts with 2 other people, but she's the best. Honestly, I only care about what she says, to be honest. But
she has her own.
she has her own, the Mason Jar podcast, also very good podcast, more about Charlotte Mason and homeschooling and stuff. But I follow her on Goodreads, and I just hang on every update that she makes. Like,
Same.
At this point, I'm only going on Goodreads to see what she's reading. Because it's just like so good. I don't know. Like, I love her recommendations, and I add everything that she wants to read to my want to read. And I just feel like we're friends, even though she has no idea that I exist. Another way that you can have kind of a social media book community is by going on the Bookstagram or Book Talk part of social media. There's some scary places of Book Talk and Bookstagram.
Yeah.
So I recommend staying on the clean side, and there's ways that you can find them. Like, the easiest way, if you want to start, just follow me and then I'll help you find those people, because it can be, you have to like use the right hashtags. You have to be able to find your like community that you want to like, people that you have like-minded views about. And it took a little while for me to like gain followers that like actually like what I post, and me like like in the same vein, find followers that I like what they post. And sometimes like I'll find somebody and then I'm like, I don't really like the books that they're reading, so then I just unfollow them. It's like, whatever, I don't care.
And you know who they are. There's an account, an Instagram account called The Glory Writers.
Oh yes,
and
love them.
They have like publishing services. They help promote Christian authors.
Yeah, they're awesome.
That might be a good place to start.
Definitely a good place to start.
And then, the Glory Writers, the more you interact with their content, like
you get recommended.
Instagram will push out, other things that are similar.
So there's definitely sides of Book Talk and Bookstagram that I do not recommend you go to. And actually, I hope we have time this season, because we have so much we want to cover this season. But I want to do an episode about erotica. That's going to be an entire other episode. I need to read a couple books that are on my TBR that are about it. Because I know you and I have very, very, very strong feelings about that. But we want to like kind of have some backing, of the women that have gone before us that are smarter than we are, wiser than we are, before we talk about that episode in depth. But that's going to be another thing that we want to talk about, hopefully this season. If not this one, then definitely the next one. So I would just say, like, use discernment and caution when getting on social media and having like a Bookstagram account, and just kind of, weed out the things that you shouldn't be watching or looking at or reading. Anyway, this was a very long episode, but it was jam-packed full of advice and suggestions for you if you want to start your reading journey, or if you kind of started your reading journey but just needed an extra little push, let Marcella and I be your cheerleaders to get to reading and enjoy yourself. And truly, like, I think that when we start reading and becoming a reader, it just becomes natural. It truly does become a part of your life, and it's not like so much a chore anymore once you get into the habit of doing it. And all of these ideas, if you implement even just one or two of them, then you're at least starting somewhere and making it a part of your daily life. And I promise you that you're going to enjoy yourself. Like, God made us narrative people. That's how he made us, because of the greatest story ever told. He gave us his special revelation through his word, through story, through a book. And so if we just dig a little deeper in this digital age where we're so used to being entertained by screens and by we're used to consuming media in short form. We're used to consuming media in, like, with lots of stimulating things for our eyes. If we learn how to bring that habit of attention to reading, even listening to books, it really can change. It can change you as a person. I really do think that I've been changed by this just in the last 2 years. And I know that you can say the same yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any
definitely.
final thoughts before we sign off today?
I do, but I think we should save them for a part 2.
Sounds good. So yeah, our
Like
parting thoughts
cliffhanger.
today are: start reading,
Yes, ma'am.
get a book, start reading it, and tell us about it.
Yeah. And honestly,
right.
I think it will get addicting. Like, it may take one reading session. It might take a couple of weeks of reading. It might take a month of reading, but it will have, like, once you find the right one, it'll just, like, set you off on this whole journey.
Yes.
And it's really great.
Awesome.
All right.
We will see you guys next week, where we're going to be talking about preparing for marriage and engagement. And we're also going to be talking about our winter favorites this month. So you guys can look forward to that. So we will talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.